Travis, please.
My question, thank you for being here this morning. My question has to do with a growing sense of disenfranchisement with the small and micro businesses in Seattle. They don't seem to be at the table when decisions are being made and planning is being done that directly affects them, especially businesses owned by LGBT people, immigrants, and people of color. I think there's a very real concern that there are no business owners on the council, and I believe that fact broadens the gap between business owners in the city and the city's planning. And almost all of the recommendations from the Commercial Affordability Advisory Council have just showed up and nothing's really happened with regard to implementation. So I'm wondering how you will work to alleviate that feeling of disenfranchisement, which I believe is growing at too rapid a pace in the city, if you're elected, and give micro businesses and small businesses a voice.
So, I think that small businesses and in particular micro businesses are the lifeblood of the city. We have to do everything we can to protect and preserve small businesses, which are many times cultural anchors in the neighborhoods that they exist in. And one of the things that I would like to see happen is to make sure that those voices are being heard at City Council is the creation of a small business and small business task force. This would be an ongoing group. It's similar to, I think, we have a renters commission, we have a human rights commission. I think there's 25 commissions, there's a lot of them. But I think that we could actually have a very strong voice that's kind of a permanent point of feedback for the city council if we kind of pull those folks together and are constantly in line of communication with the legislative body. The second thing I think we need to do on top of that is to make sure that we are protecting micro businesses and small businesses from being displaced. We're seeing Seattle in every neighborhood become more and more gentrified, and I'm a big proponent of commercial rent control. We are seeing commercial rents go through the roof. There is a ban on residential rent control, but not on commercial. And I think the city should try to stabilize commercial rents because that's how we're seeing a lot of small business owners getting displaced. It's not just the increasing costs of wages, it's the fact that commercial rents are just going through the roof. I'd also like to see a portable health benefit a portable benefit system where small businesses can pay into a city program so that if an employee goes from one place to another, they can keep their benefit package because it's at home with the city.
So that concern that you brought up about not being heard is one that I hear often when talking with small businesses. And I think the reason that many small businesses, most of them women-owned throughout Seattle, are coming forward and supporting me in this race is because they know that I don't point fingers, assign blame, or cast aspersions, especially wide dispersions on entire industries, unlike my opponent. That's why you see folks like Clementines and Molly Moon's, Sugar Pill, Optimism Brewery, Plum Bistro, so many more, coming forward to want to support my campaign and putting signs up because they know that they're going to have a voice in policy discussions. I mentioned earlier that I had worked on the minimum wage and sick leave initiative. Thanks to so much of the help that we got from GSBA, it passed by almost 60% of the vote. But the reason that I think it worked is because we went to small businesses and asked, what's the best timeline for you? How do we implement something that would work well for the smallest businesses, especially when it comes to a new program? Because if we make promises to workers, but it doesn't work for the smallest businesses, it will never work for the workers we promised it to. And I think we all benefit when we have those voices at the table early. That's why I'm really interested in making sure that my door is always open, and beyond that we actually create policy generated from community. And when I say community, that also means generated from our small businesses and industries. I've talked to a number of folks who are very interested in looking at the Portland model, the Portland Mercado, and the Micromercantes model that allows for small businesses to get their business on solid ground, to have additional capital support for the first 3 years so that people can get past those first, I'd say, hardest years of business. And for us to look as a city about how we award contracts out and reward our community, especially women, minority business owners, and the LGBTQIA community who want to do business and be in partnership with the city. So those are the 3 things I would do.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question because I am a small business owner. I've owned a small IT firm for over 30 years, and if elected, I would be the only person in city leadership with a business background. I have a degree in sociology and an MBA, and I would put those skills to use so that we have a more balanced city. I think Seattle's put too much emphasis on new construction and Amazon retail to our detriment. I think small businesses are disproportionately taxed, just as we have a regressive tax system that is killing our low-income families and people on a fixed income. We need to change that system, and we do need to listen to the voices of small businesses, encourage contracts with small businesses, and we can also help with the commercial rent by forcing landlords that have empty retail space, and there's a lot of it around the city. Whenever you see a completely screened window, they give the image that something's there, and in fact it's empty commercial space. We can say you have to rent it and lower the rent until it's rented. And that would actually change the dynamic of space being available to small businesses. I support a plan in the city where we really encourage economic diversity. We need to work on industrial jobs, keep our industrial square footprint that we have now, even if we move it to a new location, have and grow that footage. And I actually have had an economic plan since the early 2000s for ML King, which was decimated by light rail. It divided the community. It's very difficult for people on the east and the west side of the street to come together as a community. So I would like to have ML King be referred to also, not changing the name of the street, of course, but referred to as the Walk of Nations, and have an engaging reason for people to get off light rail and come into our community, because diversity is our biggest asset in South Seattle, and we're not capitalizing on it. And I'd like to see a picture of Dr. King as you enter on both ends saying, I have a dream, and as you go out, that came true. And I think that would make a huge difference in the city, and it would be an international tourist destination if done right, and for a very low cost.
Thank you. Roger, may I just ask a follow-up?
Quickly, please.
Teresa, you didn't comment on rent control, both of the other speakers did. Would you mind just mentioning your position on that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the extra time. Absolutely. One of the things I hear is that as the new buildings are going up, there's not enough small square footage storefronts. And this would really allow for small businesses to be able to afford a business at the front. So I am in favor of, yes, making sure that there's rent stabilization for our commercial retail folks, and also making sure that we incentivize the creation of smaller storefronts. If you look at, for example, El Centro de la Raza, the new Roberto Maesta Plaza, across the street from a transit station is now affordable housing, but on the first floor there's retail space for women and minority-owned businesses, and I think that that also means we could be incentivizing small businesses to be able to have affordable space as we create the city that we know we need, which is additional housing and places for our community to start their own business.